Pac-12. Let's move on to our last question. It's the same for the past 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know what we're on now. Where does USC stand in the national picture? They're not good.
I'll take the floor here. I'll take the floor.
Okay,
here.
Nathan. Can I prop you up here? Can I prop you up?
Yeah.
Prior to the show, we spent about 45 minutes on the phone where Nathan took about 40 of those minutes walking me through every possibility that USC could make the college football playoffs. I struck down about 11 of them. Here is number 12, which is still barely possible. Like, I'm talking 0.00001%. Like, it is more likely that lightning will strike the Coliseum and light the torch than this happening. Nathan, take it away.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna preface this by agreeing with you. I really do not think that this is going to happen. However, if you examine the individual steps here, you'll find that each of them, well, it's maybe not likely. Each of them there's certainly a chance of them taking place. All right. So let me break this down for you. First step. Notre Dame beats Clemson. Clemson's out. Right. 2-loss Clemson. They lost to Notre Dame. They got the out. Next step, Ohio State is ineligible for the Big Ten Championship, which means that one of their last 2 games gets canceled, which certainly could happen because I've seen very few of these COVID cancellation outbreaks, whatever, only canceling 1 game. So I think there's a chance that happens. In that case, it's hard to put a 5-0 Ohio State in the playoffs, right? Especially when they don't even appear in the conference championship game, right? Cincinnati loses to Tulsa. They play toward the end of the season. I think there's a conference championship there too. So they're going to play them twice. If they lose one of those games, they're going to be out. BYU, Spencer, I know you are a BYU fan. I think BYU is better than USC, of course, but the playoff committee clearly does not like them. Like number 14 in the first list was very disrespectful, I thought. I know that's a lot coming from me, but whatever. So now you have, and then BYU doesn't schedule Washington, or they schedule that game and they lose, right? So now you have BYU out. You have Cincinnati out, you have Clemson out, you have Ohio State out, and then the teams that you are left with are Notre Dame and Texas A&M probably gets that nod. Alabama, obviously, SEC champion, undefeated, best team in the country, and then there's a 4th spot which can't be BYU, can't be Cincinnati, can't be Ohio State because they didn't play enough games. If you have a 6-0 SC who won a conference championship, look, it's possible.
I still think Indiana takes it if Ohio State is ineligible, right? Indiana gets that spot.
No. That's actually a great point because.
You mean Northwest? You forgot Northwestern.
So Northwestern has to beat Indiana in the Big Ten championship game, but not convincingly enough to put them in the playoff. Unconvincingly enough to the point where they say they lost to Michigan State, and the way in which they beat Indiana was not convincing enough to put them in. And your 4 teams are Alabama, Notre Dame, Texas A&M.
Just so we don't get dragged on Twitter, because apparently we have some BYU fans in the chat, and I know what BYU is capable of. That's not going to happen.
It's not.
And if it does happen, USC is going to play Alabama, and they're going to get dragged. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's possible. It's possible. But so is a chance of me winning the Mega Millions. Okay? They're possible. Not plausible. This USC team hasn't shown enough to show that they can compete with Alabama. And by God, I'm glad they did not play them at the start of the season, because that would have been college football playoff hopes gone. Week 1 done. Done. That's it. I retire. I don't cover college football anymore. I go into hiding, and I call it that because I thought they had a shot against Alabama. And it's clear if they started like they did against Arizona State, they don't. We got Lily in the chat saying there's what are the chances of a global pandemic happening? And yet it still happened, didn't it? So, yeah. Spencer saying you guys beat Utah. I'm a fan. Dude, I want to see Utah BYU. That could be awesome.
Yeah, me too.
Give me that. Spencer, I'm glad you're joining our side now. I appreciate it. I'm glad we can be friends after this. I'm sorry for what we said against BYU, and the CFP is definitely snubbing BYU a little bit.
What I said. Sorry for what I said.
I backed you up a little bit. But here's what I want to say about the national pick. Okay. Everything is destroyed right now. Whoever wins the season, barring Alabama, because Alabama is the one team that you can confidently say is the best team in this league, right? There's a reason they're at number 1, and I don't see that moving anytime soon. Okay, you know how many votes they have? 1,550. Okay, they got 62 first place votes, which is all of them.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah. So there's no one on the there's 62 people that vote for the AP poll, and not one of them thinks they don't deserve to be there. So I think unless it's Alabama, there's an asterisk. Just because you even have a Notre Dame team that's playing, in the ACC, which is just not normal. You have Ohio State who's playing fewer games. Nothing makes sense this year. It really doesn't. I think everything is going to have an asterisk by it. I think at this point we're just playing for fun, and that's why I don't care about the CFP anymore. Just because it's not USC's fault. Now, if they lose to Washington State or UCLA at the end of the season, I'm going to be kind of mad. I'm going to be kind of ticked. But at this point, it's not their fault. You can't blame Clay Helton. You can't blame Todd Orlando. You can't blame Graham Harrell or Keaton Slovis or the linebackers or injuries. Somehow we lose Marquise Stepan Carr already. But, I don't think it's anyone's fault.
We were talking about this before the show. This is but there's a tiny piece of me. Not significant enough, not a big enough piece. But there's a tiny piece of me that says, look, if USC loses one game, then we won't be left reminiscing on what could have been. Because if USC goes undefeated this year, you know what we're all going to do, or I know what I'm going to do, and say, oh, well, they went 6-0. They would have clearly won 12-0. They might have even beaten Alabama. They'd be in the college football playoff for sure. But if USC loses to, like, UCLA or Washington State, or even in the Pac-12 championship, we're going to say, look, maybe go to the Fiesta Bowl, and nothing else could have happened. And so, therefore, we don't really know what was taken away from us, and we don't have to dwell on what could have been.
You haven't been seasoned because you didn't cover 2018, okay? I covered 2018. I saw what terrible looked like. So, they got to win out. They just have to. That's the bar for them. At least make the Pac-12 championship. That is the bottom bar. If you don't make the Pac-12 championship, that's grounds for firing. That's the one thing.